Today I'm walking in the footsteps of movie stars, rock stars, poets, and oh yeah, Doctor Who. Although, is that in the past or the future? I'm not sure. Anyway, the arch you see behind me is probably the best known arch of its kind, in Britain at least, if not the world. Not bad for a hole in the rock. It's called Durdle Door. But how did it come to be? How did it get its name? And how did it become so well loved? After all, it is just a hole in a rock. That is, unless it's an undiscovered dinosaur. Stick around and I'll explain all of the above and give you an insight into one particular music video that was filmed here. Now, when you clicked on this video, I doubt you was actually looking for an hour-long geology lesson on the structure of the Jurassic coast. And if you're anything like me, you may not even understand half of it anyway. So let me explain how this structure came to be, in as best as I understand it anyway. Apologies in advance to any clever clogs out there who may feel I've oversimplified it, or worse still, actually got it wrong. But I'm going to do my best. Millions of years ago, there would have been a series of different types of rock running along the coastline here. The front line against the sea was a hard face of Portland limestone, and that's very hard wearing, so it would have stood up to the power of the sea very well. Behind this plate was a layer of softer rock that would have broken down easier should the sea have reached it. After this, a stronger, thicker band of chalk. Now, you probably remember a few years ago seeing on the TV a railway line in Dorset dangling in mid-air after the sea, strengthened by a particularly bad storm, had smashed the concrete defences from underneath it. So I'm sure you can imagine that with millions of years to work on it, even that hard Portland stone would succumb to the power of the sea eventually. And once that happens, the softer rock behind will break down more quickly, allowing the sea in and leaving some bits of that Portland stone still standing out in the sea behind it. So Durdle Door is a part of that Portland stone that's left out in the sea, and apparently the entrance to Lulworth Cove nearby is part of the same plate of Portland stone. I guess the hole must just have been a bit of softer rock that was mixed in and got broken out many years ago. Just to throw in another factor, any water coming in from nearby rivers would have struggled to pass that line of Portland stone as well, and that would have slowly carved out gaps behind the Portland stone, adding to the pressure for it to finally break. Now, did that make any sense at all? Let me know in the comments. Of course, you may prefer the alternative explanation put forward in the children's book, Scary Bones Meets the Dinosaurs of the Jurassic Coast. It's a great little read with amusing character names like Pterodactyl, Tyrannosaurus and Dippy Ludicrous. It's an epic little adventure story. In fact, it's about as epic as an epic adventure story could be epic, and maybe even a little bit more epic than that. Now, although I wrote that line myself, anyone that read the book would recognise it quite quickly. Now, I don't want to spoil the book for anyone, so if you want to find out what happens and how Durdle Door was actually created, then you have to read it for yourself. I'll include a link below. There's records of this place being called Durdle Door since the 18th century. But over the years it's varied a little bit. It's been Durdle, Duddle, Dud. The first Ordnance Survey map of the area called it Durdle Door. To be fair, even now people get it wrong. I've heard it called Doodly Door, Dumbledore, usually anything but its actual right and proper name. It derives incidentally from the Old English word thurl, which means to drill or bore. It'd take a big old drill bit to make a hole like that. I don't think the Snap-on man carries them. What about you? Have you called it something else in the past? Go on, own up. You're a better person if you can laugh at your own mistakes. Standing down here on the beach, I have to say I really feel in awe of this place. Now, I know I've just given you a geological explanation of how this place came to be, but in reality it feels like somewhere this magical can't have just been created by chance. Shall the tide thus ebb and flow forever and forevermore? Rave the wave and glance the ripple through the rocks at Durdle Door. The words of Arthur Mole, taken from his book Songs of Heaven and Home, written in a foreign land. This place has been an inspiration for so many, with artists like Billy Ocean, Tears for Fears, Cliff Richard and Bruce Dickinson all making music videos here. And I'll come back to one of those shortly. It's also been used as a film set for films like Nanny McPhee, Wild and Far from the Madding Crowd, written by the famous local author Thomas Hardy. And in Doctor Who, it was on top of that arch that Jodie Whittaker regenerated into David Tennant. Now hang on, I thought it was David Tennant that regenerated into Jodie Whittaker. Past, future, this is more confusing than geology. Okay, quick word for returning viewers. Firstly, thanks for returning. Any time you take to watch my videos is always appreciated. You may or may not have noticed, however, a slight rebranding of the channel. It used to be called Joe's Coastal Dream, but I've changed it now just to Joe Coastal. The focus of the channel isn't changing. It's still going to be about coastal walks, coastal towns, boat trips, sightseeing paddleboarding trips, anything to do with the coast really. I just thought Joe Coastal runs off the tongue a bit more and is a little bit more memorable. Also, I'm going to start experimenting with the upload schedule. I have been always uploading on a Sunday morning, but I'm going to try maybe Saturdays and even Fridays, and maybe some other days. Here's a question. What day is it now when you're watching this? Is this the same day as you might be more likely to watch my videos in the future? Use the comments to let me know. Back in September 1990, an advert was put out in a local newsagents for local people to turn up to take part as extras in a music video. And looking at it, there must have been around 200 people came down here to Durdle Door to take part in Cliff Richard's Christmas hit single, Saviour's Day. In it, Cliff's seen on top of the rock, waving his arms about, walking on the beach, waving his arms about, sitting on a rock, probably waving his arms about. And most of it was filmed using a helicopter. After all, nobody had drones in those days. A helicopter. My budget doesn't even stretch to a drone. Maybe if I waved my arms around a bit more. No, maybe not. It was a hot day and all the extras had been asked to turn up in winter clothing. After all, it was a Christmas single. It seems like the only thing that stopped them from overheating was the downdraft from the helicopter blades. Apparently there's two versions of the video. I can only find one on YouTube. In that, the extras only feature on the top of the cliff, but apparently in the other version there's a genuine local postman delivering presents and a local person's boat. Now I certainly wasn't one of those locals. I was still living back in London then, so I have to thank the people on the Purbeck Past Facebook group for their information about this video. This coastline is so full of interesting facts and stories, like this one for example. How could I be on Weymouth Beach and yet not actually be in Weymouth? If you want to know the answer to that one, you have to click on the link on your screen. Thanks for watching.